What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, another Reaper format video. If you don't know, Reaper format is the format held in March 2006, based around the SJC Long Beach from that year. And it's really fun. It is a format soon after GOAT, and it involves a new limited list that actually hits all of the, Trinity cards and BLS from GOAT that a lot of people have issues with. Now, Reaper has its own issues as well. Stein OTKs are running around and stuff like that. But there are still a variety of decks that you can play in the format, and it's definitely by no means tier 0 or just degenerate nonsense. One of the other decks that you can actually play in this format is Tomato Control, which is a very, very cool deck that I'm showing off today here. This list in front of you was made by Basilia, and actually they managed to top a Reaper event with this list in the past, so I just figured this would be the best place to start with the deck. I do think it is a very, very powerful deck. Arguably, this deck is the best grind game in the format. If you want to grind out some games, play the best control deck in the format, this is potentially that, because it can just basically have a lot of ways to destroy your opponent's stuff, get in with small attacks that chip down your opponent, and also make it kind of annoying to deal with. For instance, we got Dark Mimic levels 3s here, which can just beat in, deal 1,000, and if your opponent does want to clear this by battle, they let you draw a card. So I think this deck is really, really cool. It has a lot of interesting things going for it. And if you are looking for that grindy gameplay in this format, this is probably the deck for you. Let's go through the card by card real quick. Of course, we got the Triple Mystic Tomato, which is what gives this deck its name. This can basically go into almost everything in your deck. And there are a lot of good targets to go into off this. Before we get to those targets, we've also got to break with Magical Warrior, because this is a big beat stick that can also pop your opponent's back row. We've got Dark Mimic level 1 as well. You can go into this off Tomato, but you generally don't want to. You want to flip this up, draw a card. Occasionally, you can also get off the effect to bring out a Dark Mimic level 3 from deck, and also, basically buff up the amount of draws that this gives you if it's destroyed by battle. Dark Mimic level 3 is a really good Tomato target, although there are some potential better ones that you might want to go into, but this is still a good option if you've gone through a lot of the others. We got double Mobius here because, you're bringing out things with the recruiters, so you likely will have tribute fodder on board, and Mobius is pretty good, just clearing away your opponent's back row and enabling you to get in for attacks. Mystic Tomatoes, as I mentioned, are here. We got triple Newdoria as well, is a great target off Tomato, can pop an opponent's monster once destroyed by battle, which is very strong. We've got a Sangan here to search out pretty much everything else in our deck as well, just like with Tomato. We got Double Reaper in case we need to wall up or rip a card out of hand, and we got a Tsukiyomi. This can be used to reset our Dark Mimics and draw more cards off them, as well just to get over Monarchs as well, so this card is very cool as well. For these spells, we've got a Book of Moon here to set down our cards, or to set down opponent's monarchs, as I mentioned. We've got a Confiscation here to rip our opponent's hand. We got double creature swap to give them a Tomato or a Newdoria for a high value target that they might have. We've got a Dark Hole here to wipe the board. We got a Heavy Storm to wipe the spell and traps off the board. We got MST to deal with back row as well. We got a Nobleman of Crossset to deal with our opponent's sets. We've got double Smashing Ground here to pop their monsters. We got a Snatch Shield to take their monsters, and for the traps, we got a Call the Han to bring back our stuff. We've got double Dust Tornado to sort of get it at that back row again. We've got triple Psychoretsu Armor here to stop their attacks. We've got Torrential Tribute here to wipe away the entire board, and lastly, we've got triple Widespread Ruin, just like Saku. This wipes away their attacks. For the side deck, we got a couple different options to go into here. We got a bit of a small warrior package, DD Warrior Lady, Exiled Force, Strike Ninja, and double Rhoda in case we want to go into that. We've got triple Threatening Roar in case we need to stop our opponents from attacking, or if they're on an OTK strategy. We got Scapegoat for a similar reason. Oh, a Zumbira also is here off the Rhoda package as well, if you want to bring that in too. We've got double Stealth Bird in case we're up against a bit of a slower deck. This can be good to bring in, just get the aggressive pressure going there. We got Night Assailant to pop our opponent's stuff, and we've got double Dark Ruler Hades. This can be good to bring in against Monarch. Shuts off Treeborn Frog, shuts off a lot of powerful things that they might have. Feud deck is mainly here just for show. We don't have Stein in the deck, but, if we manage to take a Stein with something like Creature Swap or Snatch Shield, then it is good to have this here. And it's a pretty straightforward fusion deck. You got the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon for the biggest attack in the format. Cyber Blader, because the third effect occasionally comes up. We got a Cyber End Dragon to pierce through defense position monsters. Cyber Twin to attack twice with 2800. Dark Balter to negate normal spells and also negate monster effects. We've got a Dark Blade the Dragon Knight to banish cards from grave. We got Dark Flare Knight here, which you probably don't need, but occasionally the no battle damage thing could come up maybe. We got Fiend Skull Dragon here to negate targeting traps and flip effects. We've got Gatling Dragon to pop the board. We've got King Dragoon to negate targeting effects. We've got Reaper on the Nightmare to get in for 800 directly. We've got a Ryu Senshi here to negate normal traps and spells that target it. We've got Last Word from Another Planet to shut off summons, and Thousand Eyes Restrict to suck up our opponent's stuff. But that's going to do it for the card by card. Let's dive into some games and see how this game actually plays out. Okay, we got our first game here against Dump Truck. If you can guess on the channel, always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving in to the games here, and they will win the rock, paper, scissors, so they will be going first, unfortunately. But our deck didn't really care too much about going first or second. It's just annoying because they could potentially set up as a board play if they're on Monarchs here. They're just going to start by T-setting and passing back to us. This is a pretty good opening for us. We can just set the Dark Mimic level 1. Say Dust Tornado set a widespread pass back to them. If they've got Mobius here, we get a bit punished by that, but we get to Dust Tornado their back row. So it's not the worst thing in the world. But if that set is a pro heavy, then that's kind of annoying. But, you know, we kind of have to do what we got to do. And they're just going to set one of their own, pass back to us. It seems like we're on two pretty slow decks here. We're just going to flip a Dark Mimic to draw a card, set down the other Dark Mimic. And now if this Dark Mimic survives, we actually will be able to go into level 3, which is kind of cool. And it doesn't need survive, so we're just going to bring out that last level 3 from deck. We could potentially flip up the other Dark Mimic, because it does summon from hand too, but I don't necessarily want to summon from hand off this. So I'm just going to buy my time. I'm going to set another Dark Mimic level 3, pass back to them. And they're going to go for Dark Hole on this. I felt like I was relatively safe from Dark Hole since they had 2 monsters there and 2 back rows, so it's not like they've got like Treeborn Frogs that are going to be coming back here anytime soon. They do have 1 Frog Ace. They're just doing this for when their back row is gone. They set 1 card there. We could potentially go for like giving them an Edoria and then creature swapping just in case that set monster is a flip monster, but I don't really think that's worth it. I just set the Edoria, pass back to them. And unfortunately, you know, we do get a little bit punished for that. They go for a Rhoda there, grabbing an Exiled Force. And now they flip up this Magician of Faith, grabbing back the Dark Hole. So now they've got another very powerful board clear, which is really annoying for our deck to deal with. They go for Exiled here, popping our Edoria, and then attack in with the Magician of Faith for 300. They pass back to us. We draw a Sakurai to armor here. I'm just going to summon out the Dark Mimic level 3 attack into the Magician of Faith. If they've got a back row to stop this, then that's unfortunate. But they got Dark Hole here either way. We got to eat through that back row eventually, so I figure it's fine doing this. This isn't the most high value card to, you know, lose by removal. So if they do that, then I'm ultimately fine with it. They're going to go for Snatch on that. And they're going to attack in for 1,000. I choose not to Dust Tornado this because I feel like ultimately this doesn't really matter. The real punish here is if they've got like Mobius or something, but it looks like they've got Cyber Dragon instead. It'll still be kind of rough for us, but like, again, it's not really the worst thing in the world. And now I want to make sure that this play goes through, so I'm going to Dust Tornado their back row and then creature swap with the Tomato. Unfortunately, they've got an MST there, so that will pop our widespread. But we can give them the Tomato, tag into the Tomato, and then bring in a Reaper and try and snipe that Dark Hole out of hand. They've got 4 cards in hand, so it's not the most likely thing in the world. But, you know, I guess we could have gone Sangan to get value off the Dark Hole there, so maybe I should have just done that. But I feel like the Reaper play is fine. We've got back row to protect ourselves if they do wipe out this board. And this deck is generally good at drawing into monsters. So they bring out a Warrior Lady here, trying to attack in. I would just take it because I figure, you know, it's better just to use Smashing Around on this next turn and save Saku for a more high impact target that might be attacking in. But if they've got Mobius, that pops the Saku, and then that kind of backfires on us. So maybe I should have just Saku'd this and saved the Smashing Around for later. But I feel like it's fine just going Smashing here now that I've done it. So I just do that, pass back to them. They bring out that Treeborn Frog and pass back to us. We draw into a TT here, and we're just going to set that, pass back to them. If they got Mobius, at least the TT stops the Mobius. Fortunately, they've got Heavy, which is kind of rough for us, but now we can potentially Heavy them as well. We just choose to set the Heavy, trying to bait them into setting more back row. We don't necessarily need to clear their back row just yet before we do a push. So they're going to bring out this Edoria here, attack in for 12, and then pass back to us. We draw a creature swap. So we have a couple different options here. We could Snatch deal the Treeborn Frog, then switch it to attack, creature swap to attack in for 11 with the Edoria. The awkward thing about that is if they destroy the Edoria by battle, then it allows them to pop one of our own monsters. But there could often be a case if we don't commit any other monster beside the Edoria, then that Edoria will have to pop whatever monster's on field because it is a mandatory effect. So I actually think the better move here would have just been like Heavy the back row now and then go for the Snatch Steal creature swap play. I think I should have done that, but instead I get a little bit greedy and it comes back to bite me. They bring out a Cyber Stein, choosing not to go for the effect, which I think is fine here. But, you know, now the creature swap's a lot less good because we can't actually choose to get the Edoria. We can bring out this Tomato, though, and attack in. We hit the Call the Haunted off that Heavy Storm, so not the best Heavy Storm there, but it is something. We attack in to the Cyber Stein, just getting it off the field, preventing them from going for a Stein play. We set this MSC, pass back to them. They go for a Reaper here, so unfortunately this will be able to rip a card out of our hand. But we do have a way to potentially clear it with the Snatch Deal there. What we could also do, you know, okay, creature swap's gone now. I was going to say, if they do let us keep creature swap, we could potentially do a creature swap play, but yeah. We draw Edoria, and I have a couple different options here. What I could do is I could just summon out Edoria, attack into Reaper. I think that's fine. I choose to set the Edoria, though, to sort of bluff that it's something else and try and get them to use up other stuff there. But I think, honestly, you know, my win con at this point is getting in damage when I can, and so I need to just hit over that Reaper. And unfortunately, they do have the knock, so they will be able to banish the Newdoria. And they're going to set a card. We just MST it in the end phase because we kind of have to at that point. We draw into a Breaker. We have to commit this on field somehow, or else the Reaper will just hit in. I guess we could have just Snatch Stolen the Reaper, kept the Breaker in hand, and that would have been fine. Maybe I should have done that. I just bring out the Breaker, pass back to them. They go for a side right here, attack over the Breaker. They get in for 200 and pass back to us. We draw a Sangan here, which is okay. We are going to Snatch Steal that Reaper because if they choose to just switch the Reaper to attack and attack over the Sangan with the Sidra and attack directly with the Reaper, then we lose the card that we search here. So I feel like we kind of have to get rid of that now. They get out a Treeborn Frog there, attack over the Sangan. We will search out just a Tomato to deck them even further. Although maybe we shouldn't be trying to deck them this much because, you know, we are at risk of deck out occasionally. We go for Comfy here. It is a bit of a risky play, but I do feel like I need to get out what they might have in hand to kill us here. So I send the Will because I feel like that is more combo potential for them than the Scapegoat is now. So they attack in to the Tomato there. We bring out a Reaper. We can switch that to defense next turn and be okay with that. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Saku, which is pretty good. We're just going to switch the Reaper to defense, set the Saku, pass back to them. They're going to attack in to the Reaper there. We've got the Saku for the Sidra. They're going to set another pass back to us. We draw a Call the Haunted, which is pretty good. We set the call, pass back to them. They are going to go for a meta on the Treeborn Frog, and this will actually be able to suck up the Reaper. It will not be destroyed by the effect. This was a series of misclicks on my part, but yeah, we give them the Reaper. They attack in for 300. Having our life points, we could potentially call here just to block an attack. But what I don't want them to do is I don't want them to like crash the Reaper into whatever we bring out. Then next turn suck up that and win the game that way. So I need to save call as sort of like a battle trick, I think, for next turn. We draw widespread though, so that will deal with the Thousand Eyes here. So we'll get rid of that. And then main two, they're going to set one pass back to us. We draw Tsukiyomi here. We're just going to set that pass back to them. And they're going to flip up a Don Zaluk here. They bring out a Reaper as well to try and get in that last bit of damage. We flip up the Sook, and then we'll set down the Reaper here. Just in case they've got a way to deal with Sook. Like, we've seen Raigeki break out of them. I don't want them to, you know, go for Raigeki break on Sook and be able to attack him with Reaper. So the Sook will return to hand here. We draw a Saku, which is pretty good. We're going to think about exactly what to do here. And I am just going to go for the call, bring out the Tomato, and crash into the Zaluk. Get something else out from deck. It is a bit awkward here. They do have Econ, though, so it won't even get to that point. We set the Sook, we set the Saku, pass back to them. They're going to switch the Zaluk to defense, pass back to us. We draw Nox. We'll just knock away that Reaper there, pass back to them. And they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Dust Tornado here. We set that, pass back to them. And it's just a bunch of setting and passing here. The mirror is very, very weird. I mean, they're very, very grindy games. We choose the Saku, the Tomato. We could have potentially saved the Saku as well. Because we could bring out like Newdoria here and then use Saku on the Dawn. That is something we could have done. Or we could have just let them attack into the Newdoria, popped the Tomato that way. I think we still have a Newdoria left in deck. Yeah, we still have one Newdoria left in deck. So I could have potentially done that, but I just choose to, you know, Saku the Tomato because it's just an annoying card. I don't want them to get out more cards from their deck. I go for Dust on the back row that I think is Scapegoat, and I do indeed hit the Scapegoat. I don't want them to get that off later in case we do need to make a push here somehow. We draw a Widespread Ruin. We're going to set that. We're going to attack in to the Don Zalug there. And we're going to bring out this Newdoria here and attack in for 12. And that will indeed go through. Now, I could just rely on the Widespread Ruin to protect the Newdoria, but what I choose to do here instead is flip up the Sook to set down the Newdoria there. And, you know, just protect it a bit, add Sook back to hand, and I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. Unfortunately, they do have the TT for this. They will be able to wipe out the whole board there, and now I'm in a really bad spot. I do still have Widespread, so I can protect myself for a turn. But unfortunately, I don't really think we have the aggressive pressure here to really get in and win. They will just, you know, creature swap, take control of the Dark Mimic there. We do have a Mobius here that can pop their back row. We kind of have to attack into the Mimic now because they've got a... have they used up both creature swaps? They have used up both creature swaps, so you don't have to worry about that. But I just don't want them to sort of have the fodder on field for a tribute. I mean, I guess they get back Treeborn Frog here anyways, so it doesn't really matter there. They've got Brain Con, they take control of the Mobius, and we do indeed have the Widespread here, but they've got a Mimic, and that will just be the end of the game. So I think it does show like one of the flaws of this deck, where if you're up against another like very, very grindy, slow deck, it can be a bit tough to, you know, go over the top of that deck and actually win. So, you know, I'm not saying I played that game perfectly as well. Like, I'm definitely not as skilled with this deck as someone like Basilia, who made the deck and actually top with it, is. But I do think that, like, it just can be a tricky deck to win with in certain situations, and that was definitely one of them. Now, for the siding process here, I took out the creature swaps because I feel like that was pretty bad. I took out one more card as well. I think I took out, or no, I took out two more cards. I took out the Dust Tornadoes as well because I feel like, Don't Direct deck, like, it does have back row. We did see some of that back row there, but with Treeborn Frog in the picture, we don't really need to use those stuff. I mean, I probably should have decided on heavy instead of like Dust Tornadoes because Dust Tornadoes are a bit more reactive. But yeah, I brought in Strike Ninjas. I brought in Dark Ruler Hadesses because I feel like those would be pretty good in this situation. But they're just going to get in over the tomato there, dealing 100 to us, setting 1, passing back. We draw a widespread here. We're just going to go for a breaker, pop that back row to Saku, so I'm glad I did that. Now we tech in for 1600 there. And main 2, we're just going to set this widespread pass back to them. They've used up MSC, so I don't really care about that. They bring out a Sidra and a Reaper. Now they're going to snatch the... Oh, wow, this is a lot of damage there. Maybe I should have set the Saku as well, but I didn't want to play into heavy. I just have to widespread ruin the Cyber Dragon there, and then we will lose a card from hand, unfortunately. So if I had set the Saku instead of the widespread, I would have potentially been able to avoid that situation, but I just lose the Strike Ninja, which isn't the worst thing in the world. So what I do here is I just go for setting TT, setting the Saku, passing back. They've used up MST, so I don't really need to worry about that snipe. If they go for Mobius here, I TT the board, and I'm fine that way. I've got Saku to stop the Reaper, so I feel pretty good about this overall. And I will indeed Saku that Reaper. They'll attack in for 16 here. I take the 16, but I'm gaining 1,000 every turn, so it's not the worst thing in the world. I draw a Dark Mimic there, so that's pretty good. We gain 1,000 here. I'm going to set the Dark Mimic, pass back to them. And I'm trying to play around like Mobius here, honestly. They attack in to the Mimic. We draw a card. We draw Heavy Storm, which is a bit awkward for us here because we have that set. They will indeed give us the 1,000 off that snatch. We pass back to them. They are going to draw. They flip the Sangan. I do go for the TT here. I think, honestly, I might have been able to hold this for longer. I just don't want them getting in, like, super large amounts of damage every turn. But I think, like, TTing, allowing them to get the search off Sangan is just a little bit awkward here. So I don't think I should have done this. But, it is what I did. And so I got to live with it here. But I think I should have saved the TT for later. Because there are plenty of good draws that get me out of that situation. And also, I would be gaining 1,000 every turn, so the life point loss wouldn't really be the biggest thing in the world. But I bring out a Newdoria here, set the Saku, pass back to them. They do get back this Treeborn Frog. That Treeborn Frog giving me a lot of trouble here. They go for a Mystic Tomato here, and I do think about this a bit. I do just Saku it. I could have let the Newdoria just pop the Tomato. But I figure, like, I want to get more high-value targets off the Newdoria. I guess I could have had the same philosophy with, like, Saku. But also, I've got this heavy rotting in hand. So I want to turn on the heavy in case they do set a back row at some point. But they just do not, so the heavy is dead. We attack in to the Treeborn Frog there. I set the heavy, pass back to them, trying to bluff. I don't really feel the need to protect the Newdoria with the book right now. They set 1, pass back to me. I just go for an attack here. I think what I should do is I should go for heavy, pop the back row, summon out Stealth Bird, hit over the Frog, and then attack directly with Newdoria. I think that would have been the best move there, but unfortunately, I just, bide my time a bit too long, I think. And they go for a call here. Now, that actually isn't that bad. This could have been bad for us if we had gone for heavy on that call and then gotten back Sangan to then get a search. So that would have been pretty rough. But I think overall this is fine. We draw Dark Ruler Hades. So if we did have another monster here, that would have been pretty good because we would have been able to bring out Hades. And I do feel like that deck sort of suffered against Hades. I set down the Stealth Bird. I don't set the Book of Moon because I'm thinking about like what they could have here to hit over it. I guess Breaker could hit over it. And if it's Breaker, that's annoying. But then I've got Snatch to take whatever they bring out to hit over it. And then I can bring out Dark Ruler Hades. So I feel like this is a perfectly fine situation here. There aren't like too many things to punish this, I don't think. Zaborg definitely hurts a bit. They will go for the 2,400 there. We will lose that 2,400 and they'll pass back to us. We draw a Reaper. So actually, this is a bit of an interesting situation. What I'm going to choose to do here is just go for Snatch, go for Reaper, attack in for 2,700, and then rip a card out of their hand. I'll set the book, pass back to them. I could have also just, instead of going for Reaper, summoned out Hades and, gotten rid of the Zaborg. They wouldn't have gained 1,000 here, and I would have had Hades on field for a bit. But I do feel like this is fine. I've got book to protect myself here. If they heavy the board, that's annoying, but I book down the Zaborg, and I'm feeling okay about that. So I feel like this is ultimately a good position to be in. So they're going to go for heavy here. Indeed, we've got the book for that. So that will flip down the Zaborg, and I feel like we're in a pretty decent spot until they go for Dark Hole, and that's really unfortunate here. I'm going to pass back to us. We do draw a Dark Mimic level 3, so we can just bring that out, hit in for some chip damage here, drop them down to 1,800, so I'm still in not a bad spot. They are going to bring back that Treeborn Frog there, and then they're going to tribute that for a Mobius. Mobius will attack in to the Dark Mimic level 3. At least we do get a draw here. MST is not going to do it. I should have probably sided out of MST as well. But, we set this Tomato, set the MST, pass back to them. They're going to just attack in the tomato here, and I feel pretty good about this. We can bring out the Sangan, then bring out the Hades next turn, and go for a play there. We've also got MST to snipe their back row here, too. Unfortunately, they do go for a Chaos Stork here, so they are able to banish the Sangan, pass back to us. We draw a knock, which is not going to help us here. We just MST that back row, set the knock, pass back to them as a bluff, but realistically, they just attack in with both. They didn't even have to bring back this Frog, although we have used TT, so they don't really need to worry about that. But yeah, they're just going to attack in for 4,700, and that will be the end of the game. So we maybe could have played this final game a bit differently. We also could have done things like siding out the MSTs or the heavies, and that might have made things a bit better for us. But I think overall, you know, we played these games pretty decently, and unfortunately, we just got outdone by our opponent. Our opponent was playing a deck that was very similar to ours, but they had a bit more of big bombs in it, like Mobius, Zaborg, Chaos Stork, etc. And having those bombs in the deck definitely did give them a bit of an edge over our deck, I think. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily like that is the definitive way to play it, because, again, you know, we were facing a mirror, and in the mirror, it can be a bit awkward. So this wasn't the only game that I got with the deck. I also wanted to show it off against another type of deck. So let's dive into that game now. Okay, we got a game here against Zowardo, Dark Arm God, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on, and we're diving into the rock, paper, scissors. Now, if you enjoy this sort of Reaper format content, or just retro format content in general, definitely subscribe to the channel, because I got more Reaper videos on the way, and also I also cover a variety of other formats as well that you might not know as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. It also helps grow the channel and grow the community more and make the tournaments and things like that bigger. But anyways, they just open up with a set pass. We are just going to reciprocate, kind of. We are going to T-set and pass instead of just setting a monster and passing. We're just going to set the tomato, set a Saku there. They're going to set a monster, then attack in with the Warrior Lady. We've got the Saku for that, so that's pretty good. And they'll pass back to us. I feel pretty good about this. We can just bring out a Reaper here, flip up the tomato, attack in to the set monster. It is a new Doria. They're going to pop the Reaper. That's a bit unfortunate for us, but at least they didn't pop our tomato. We're going to set a widespread here, pass back to them. They're going to go for a snatch on our tomato here, and then they're going to bring out a Hades as well. Hades is kind of annoying, so what we're actually going to do here is just going to widespread right away. Don't really need to let that hit in for too long, because it is just a very tough card for this deck to deal with. We're going to attack in with 1,000 with the Dark Mimic level 3, and then main 2, we're just going to set this TT, pass back to them. They're going to bring out a Sidra here. That's fine by us. They bring out a Strike Ninja, and now they go for a pre-mat here. And at this point, I will just go for the TT. They are able to tag out the Strike Ninja, which is something. But, like, I do think we just have to go for this. This is too much value for us to ignore. And also, we'd be, like, losing the Dark Mimic level 3 anyways to a banish off the Warrior Lady. So we wouldn't be getting a draw there. They get back the Strike Ninja and end phase, and now it can't tag out again. So if we draw a decent draw here, we can actually get rid of it for good. Unfortunately, we do not. We just draw into an MST. We're going to set the heavy as a bluff, pass back to them. They're going to go for a Strike Ninja attack here. Set, or not set anything, pass back to us. We are just going to set a widespread pass back to them. No need to commit the Souk to field yet. We are going to widespread pop that Strike Ninja, and then they're just going to pass back to us. Okay, I feel really good about this. We draw a new Doria. We're going to bring out that new Doria. Attack in for 1,200 there. Drop them down to 4,800. Pass back to them. They're going to go for a Rhoda here, and they're going to Rhoda out a Donzalug. We do have nothing for that. We can't stop that, so that's unfortunate. They're going to go for a Lightning Vortex here, banish 2, go for a Chaos Stork, set or summon out the Zalug, and attack in for 3,700. That's really rough, so we will indeed lose a card from hand here. They do hit the MST, which is honestly, in my opinion, probably the better card for us that they could have hit there. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw Dark Mimic level 1. This is not looking ideal. We're just going to set the Dark Mimic. Hope we draw something good. They go for creature swap, though, so that is very rough. They're going to banish the Zalug as well. And then they're just going to pass back to us. They can't attack with Chaos Stork here because it's banished. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Mobius here, which is not really the best. We go for Heavy Storm here, just seeing what we can hit. They have a return, which is, I mean, they're going to activate here. I don't really think they need to, but I guess it does make sense for certain eventualities here. But we just go for Souk, setting down the Chaos Stork. We'll attack in to the Dark Mimic level 1. They do get a draw from this, but on their turn, they could just flip the Dark Mimic anyways. And, I mean, many things kill us here. But they could be on, like, Magical Merchant, for instance, since they are playing Chaos. And so there is a world in which leaving them the Dark Mimic level 1 is bad for us. But maybe I should have just set the Souk and pass back to them. It just plays a little bit more defensively here. But, you know, I choose to do this. Also, you know, if they've got a Monarch or something, then I don't want to give them the fodder for that. So I'm just hoping they don't have another monster here. It looks like they do not. So they're just going to attack in for 23 and then pass back to us. We draw a tomato here that's pretty decent. So we're just going to set that pass back to them. Hopefully we can actually win this one. They're going to banish Lightning Dark, bring out another Sork, and then go for return. And they will indeed be able to bring out everything here, including a Hot Ass, which will negate our Tomato. So yeah, it's just going to be the end of the game. And we're going to go on to game 2. So we're going to dive into this. We do go first. And we do bring in some other cards for this. We bring in Triple Threatening Roar, I believe. I think I did cut down on the spell and trap removal as well, because again, this deck doesn't really seem to be playing much. It is playing Threatening Roars and stuff, or not Threatening Roars, it is playing Returns, so that's something to get rid of. But like, I feel like the Threatening Roars also deal with return plays, and also gets them to half their life points potentially. But we T-set and pass, they go for an Exiled, and, you know, pop our Tomato, pass back to us. We have another Tomato though, so we can bring that out, attack in for 14, pass back to them. And they're going to go for Lightning Vortex here, pitching a creature swap, getting rid of our Tomato, summoning out a DD Assailant here. We could potentially go for a Saku, but I want to save that a bit. You know, again, like with the previous game, you know, if they do play Mobius, then this does get punished a bit. But I do think that, like, a return deck is probably not playing Mobius as much, so I will just go for this play, smashing the DD Assailant, summon out the Nidorya, pass back to them. They're just going to pass back to us. We just draw a Dark Mimic. We could potentially play around TT or Dark Hole here by just hitting in with the Nidorya every turn, but I think it's fine going for this. We've got a Dark Mimic level 1 in hand to sort of recover from that a bit, and this does put them on more of a clock. So I would like to get them on that clock. They're going to go for a Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke. We've got a Saku for that, and they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Snatch Steal here. So this game is pretty much locked up at this point. We attack in for 2,200. Drop them down to 1,000. We got Snatch Steal in hand, which can do a lot of things against their deck if they ever mount an offensive pressure here. And we're going to set the Saku on top of that, but they don't have anything to stop that, so that will just be the end of the game. So we're going to dive in to game 3 here, and I think we keep the siding relatively the same from game 2. Although we do have the MSTs here, we have the Mobiuses as well, because I figured, like, we need to keep in a bomb in our deck, and Mobius is probably the better one as opposed to Hottest, which can't be revived. But, you know, Mobius can be a bit awkward here. We're going to go for Comfy and rip out the Nidorya from hand, leaving us with a Mimic, a Mobius, an MST, and another Mimic. They're going to bring out the Sangan here as well, and then they're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Saku, which is not bad. We're going to set the Dark Mimic level 1 and the Saku there, pass back to them if they attack him with the Sangan. You know, Dark Mimic level 1 is not destroyed. And I feel like they'll have the read that the set is MST and not the Saku, because they only know about the MST in hand. So they're just going to attack in to our set with the Sangan. We get a draw off that. And I do like the order in which they did this, because if it was Dark Mimic level 3 set, then this would be destroyed by the effect of Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke and not by battle, so we wouldn't get the draw from that. So I think that was a good play on their part. I'm just going to go for a Saku here, getting rid of that Sasuke, passing, or they pass back to us. And instead of going for the Dark Mimic level 3 from deck, which I could have done, it would have deck thinned a bit. So there is the argument for doing that. I just leave it in the deck because I'm going to bring out this Mobius here, and I want the Mimic level 3s to get value later on. But again, you know, the deck thinning might have been worth it, because that's essentially like turning it into a better draw later on. So I think, honestly, in hindsight, I should have gone for the Mimic level 3 level up there. But I don't do that. I don't really think it matters that much over the course of this game, but very, very small things when playing this deck can add up a lot. So you do want to generally go for the best play. Even if it won't really seem like it affects much in the replay, I do think that it is good to try and just be on top of everything. Also, the reason we left the MST in hand here instead of setting it was, one, because they knew we had MST somewhere, so they might just read it as a bluff. But two, if they go for the Reaper play here, which they did, then I don't want them to snipe a valuable card out of our hand. I feel like MST is not really that valuable at this point, so I wanted to keep it there in case they did hit it, and they did indeed hit it, so I feel pretty good about that. We go for a Tomato here, then we go for a Snatch. I could have also saved the Snatch because we do have this Mobius in hand, so we could have done Snatch, Tribute off for Mobius, pass back, but I figure I can just get out a Sangan here off the Tomato and, you know, go for Mobius that way. So I don't necessarily need to leave them with the Reaper, which could potentially be really bad for us later. So they're going to go for an Exile there, pop the Tomato, pass back to us. We draw Widespread Ruin, which is okay. We're just going to bring out this Dark Mimic level 3 attack in for 1,000, get them down to 4,600 out of Stein range in case they are on Stein, which they probably aren't, but just in case. They're going to go for heavy here, hidden away our Widespread Ruin. They're going to bring out a... Oh, Dawn is so rough for us here. They attack in for 4, ripping that last card out of hand before we draw. So now we do draw for the Dark Mimic. We draw a Smashing Ground, which is okay. They attack in for 21. Pass back to us. Comfy is not necessarily what we want right here, but I think we probably do have to go for it. We go for Comfy just to see what they've got. See that they've got a Nidorya and a Strike Ninja here. There are a couple different things I could have picked here. I'm going to Smashing the Cider no matter what. And either of these monsters is a 2-turn clock. So I got to think, like, okay, what do I draw here that potentially keeps me in the game? I think the thing that I draw here that potentially keeps me in the game is a monster. And if I draw a monster, I don't want them to have Newdoria because Newdoria can pop that monster potentially. Like, let's say it's a tomato. If I want to go into another tomato here, they can just, run Newdoria into that tomato, pop the tomato, and then get in for more damage. So I think what I actually want to do is hit the Newdoria out of hand. This seems really weird because, again, the Strike Ninja has more attack and also it can dodge away from removal. But I do think that it is the best thing to do here. They do go for the Strike Ninja attack in for 3,100. And they will indeed choose to mill off the Dawn. And that's unfortunate. We would had a Sangan there, although realistically that would not have helped because we set the Sangan. They still get in for lethal damage here either way. We draw Dark Hole though. We're just going to Dark Hole the board. Hope that's enough and pass back to them. And they bring out a tomato here attack in. Now, as a note, if I'd given them the Newdoria, then, it would not have actually been lethal. I would have had 100 life points left because I would have been at 1,600, or no, 200 life points left actually, because I would have been at 1,600. They attack him with tomato, drop me down to 200, and I survive one more turn. However, as I mentioned, I think the way that I was getting back into this game is drawing a monster, and I did not draw a monster. Now, Dark Hole, very, very strong. Don't get me wrong. Very, very good card. But I think in general, even if, I'd given them Newdoria and, had some more life points left, I think with only 200 life points left, I was ultimately losing this game if I did not draw a monster there. So, I mean, you could argue that, my next draw could have potentially been something that gets me back in the game, but either way, I feel like we were probably cooked at this point. If I didn't draw a monster last turn, I indeed did not draw a monster. So, yeah, they've got a book in hand, which doesn't really do much here, but the next card on our deck was a Reaper, which could have walled out a bit, except they did have this smashing coming on the following turn. So, I don't really think it would have mattered here. I think that, we were probably losing this one either way. But I do think that, it does show how this deck can grind out a bit. Now, I will say, in terms of, flaws of the strategy, I do think that it probably needs a bit more than just grinding to actually win a lot of games in this format. Now, of course, it can win games, right? This deck is widely considered to be, tier 2 at worst. And I do agree with that situation. You can definitely be playing against more aggressive decks and outgrind them and just get in that chip damage every turn with these monsters here, remove their stuff, and put them in a really tough spot. But I do think that in general, a lot of the times you're going to be facing decks that are just able to go so explosive and just, wipe out a ton of your life points in one blow and wind up in a really, really good spot if you do get into a late game top deck war or wind up in a low resource situation. So I do think that, this deck is very, very cool. And if you are a control player, I think you'll really enjoy this deck a lot. But that being said, I don't really expect this thing to be winning a tournament anytime soon. I do expect it to be topping though, in the future because I do think it's a very, very good deck, but I don't think it's quite at tier 1 level. But let me know what you think about the deck down in the comments below. Do you think that I'm underselling it, or do you think this deck is actually worse than I'm giving it credit for? I think it's really good. I think it's really fun. I encourage people to play it. But I know that people have different opinions on this sort of stuff. Now, if you want to support me directly, I subscribe to the channel, as I mentioned earlier. That really helps out a lot. But also, I have the Patreon linked in the description down below. And if you sign up for the Patreon, you get shout out in these videos. So big shout outs to Tyler Compton, GMYFS, Rintwin, Porkchop, Brent Donker, and Dump Truck. It really means a lot that you all support me this way and encouraging me to make more videos like this in the future. Also, if you want to play Reaper format games for yourself or any other format that I've covered on the channel, head over to the YGO from Dare Discord server, also linked in the description down below. It's a great place to find games in this format and any other format that I've featured. Also, we hold monthly tournaments. We hold weekly locals tournaments as well. So definitely head on over there if you want to play retro Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed as always. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.